Hello and welcome to the StarCommand podcast. I am David Seymour here with my good friend Alan Bragg. We want to start off with apologies for not being here the last couple of weeks. Life has just gotten in the way, but we are here now ready to talk some playoff football, coaching vacancies, college national championship. But if we could, before we get started, hit the like and subscribe button, share us with a few of your friends and family, and help us to get out in the world. Alan, man, it's been a crazy couple of weeks. We've both had some things going on, haven't been able to get on here and talk. We've got Black Monday happen, so we've got all kinds of coaching vacancies. One coaching vacancy has already been filled. We've got playoff football. My Commanders are riding high, fixing to go into Detroit tonight. Uh, my Texas Longhorns lost what was really a good college football playoff game against Ohio State. I know the final score looks like we got blown out, but we did not. I really think that we have a bright future with Arch Manning coming in, but your Cowboys are a mess right now at the head coaching position. They couldn't get Mike McCarthy to stay. I mean, there's just so much to talk about right now. Sam Darnold lost probably a good $20 million over a 2-week span with his play. Uh, is Detroit's defense going to be able to uphold with all the injuries that they've had through this playoff run? Philly looks like they're going to just go crazy and maybe take it all the way to the Super Bowl. We could be in store for another Philadelphia, Kansas City Super Bowl. We've got Lamar versus Josh Allen either tonight or tomorrow night. I mean,
Can't wait for that one.
I'm ready for that one too. That's probably the most exciting game of the weekend. Because you have the narrative, right? Neither one of them can win the big one. They both stall out in the playoffs, and now they're facing each other. Whoever wins this game is going to, actually whoever loses this game is really going to have a hard time. And it's crazy that they both have the same narrative when it comes to the playoffs against them, and yet they have to face each other, and
Oh, I
somebody's
wish
got to lose.
I wish they would just say what it is and say and everyone had been holding to their MVP votes, holding on to them, and this was the MVP game. Like,
Yeah,
what a better situation for two guys going head to head for the MVP. Hey, winner take all. That would be great. We know that doesn't work out, but I want to
right.
start. Let's start talking about that Texas Ohio State game.
Yeah.
Let's jump into college first. I mean, if you guys have the ball down seven on first and go from the one, right? And somehow lose by 14. You know, um, just
So
a crazy set of events.
it was a crazy set of events. Quinn Ewers' former roommate when he was at Ohio State gets a sack, fumble,
Oh, we love sports.
score. I mean, like the whole nine. So if you want my honest opinion, Sark's undying loyalty to Quinn Ewers, and there's a point to which I understand it, right? Quinn Ewers was there when Texas was not very good. Quinn Ewers was part of what helped propel us to get to where we were at and appear in two back-to-back college football playoff. We had two back-to-back appearances. But if you look at the injury that he had early in the season, he came back for the Oklahoma game, and from that point forward, he was not the same Quinn Ewers. He struggled with turnovers. He struggled with escapability in the pocket. Um, and all of those things are things that Arch Manning excels at, right? He's faster, he's bigger, he's stronger, all of those things. And I think that undying loyalty to Quinn Ewers, in a lot of the other games, you didn't really notice it as much, but you noticed it in all of the big games, right? The Ohio State game, both the Georgia games. He even tried to throw Arch Manning in the first Georgia game in at the end of halftime. But I mean, you can't throw a man that's cold in at a team that's just being relentless at the time. Like they smelled fresh blood in the water. So I think going forward, I think Arch Manning's going to fit Sark's offense a lot better. I know a lot of people are questioning his play calling with the toss from the 1 yard line, but that's a play that works a lot. They just hadn't have a spectacular safety in Caleb Downs that read the play from the get-go and was very disciplined in his coverage of that toss play, because that's what set up the Jack Sawyer, scoop and score. And
Yeah, you took yourself out of being able to run it on second down and feeling good about that play call, right? Because you're on
right,
one, you think you've at least got on first and second down. You got a quarterback sneak, you got a halfback dive, halfback tackle. You got to
right.
figure out how to get that ball to the inch line.
And here's my you just talked about the quarterback sneak. How do we have first and goal from the one twice because of, and actually the second time was first and goal from like the half-yard line, because we had half the distance to the goal on the second pass interference in the end zone. How do you not bring Arch Manning in for a quarterback sneak at least twice? Right? First and second down should have been quarterback sneak with Arch Manning. I mean, the kid's 6'4", like 230, 240. You know, we've got a monster offensive line. I'm sure we could have pushed a half a yard.
You would think, and that's the thing about Texas being all the big time university with the, 4-star, 5-star recruits is, yeah, you're now the opposing side has the best of the best at D line, linebacker, right? You're facing the best run stop, goal line defense in college football. And that was
Right,
the
most
commentator
definitely.
said as much. But you're also Texas, and you're the team that could match up with that, right? The matchup with you matched up with the best of Georgia. You matched up
Yeah.
with the best of Ohio State. Anybody you were going to face, you're the offensive line, running back combo that can match up with that. And you had to go away from it because of whether it's a bad play call, great play by Downs. Um, but even if it was me, I'd still run the ball because
Yeah.
you have 4 downs. I mean, the fact that they tried, you try a rollout and it just, the rest is
Jack
history.
Sawyer. Yeah, Jack Sawyer makes an incredible play for sure.
But Texas fought back. They showed a lot of resolve because I thought that game, Ohio State dominated the first half. I
Yeah,
really
most
did.
definitely.
And Texas hung around. They stopped them when they needed to. They got them to punt, got them off the field. Um, there were some penalties for Ohio State, but they did what they needed to do in the first half to stop the juggernaut from blowing them out. And
Yeah.
then the second half was that game of the tension. Every play was a great college football game to watch. So which way and so was the Notre Dame Penn State. What a
Yeah.
game.
That was a heck of a game. I was, a lot of people are have the narrative against James Franklin that he just can't win the big one, and his record shows that he can't. But he was in that game for pretty much the whole 60 minutes. Notre Dame made some great halftime adjustments. I think they were just the better team, right?
I don't know. I
And
think
you
you
can't.
I think if those teams played 10 times, they might be 5-5.
They might be. And the thing about it is at the end of the game, Drew Aller, who throws 0 interceptions, right? I think he threw 3 all season long, throws 2 interceptions at the end of the game. It
Well, you heard Colt McCoy or not McElroy.
yeah,
McElroy, the commentator was like, you gotta let him. He's not gonna make a mistake. You have to let him attempt to go down the field and put you in field goal range. He's not gonna make that mistake. And then boom, he makes that mistake, and it's like,
right.
oh,
Commentator curse, man.
yeah,
You know,
so
it
so
doesn't
yeah,
just work on field goals.
so the coach was thinking the same thing, right? They're like, this kid's not going to put us in a bad situation. He's not been that guy all year, and you're trusting this kid that's been at practice in the film room, been showing you on Saturday after Saturday, been showing you I'm going to make the right decision, and you can count on me. And then in the biggest moment, boom, he didn't. So I don't. Obviously, he comes out, goes to overtime. They have a chance. I don't hate the decision because I'm always like, you got to go for it. I mean, unless there's 10 seconds left, 50, I mean, I think they had 26 seconds when they got the ball, I think
Yeah,
is what it was. 10 seconds or less, no, absolutely. Because you're counting on yourself having to throw the ball and catch it in field goal range. And that
right.
just doesn't, that's not going to happen in
It doesn't
college.
work out very often unless your name's Jaden Daniels.
Yeah,
Um,
unless your name's Jaden Daniels. Well, yes, and Jaden Daniels has the luxury of playing in the NFL where you can get a pass interference at the 30, right? You can throw a
right.
bomb, get a pass interference, and get that. So it's worth trying in the NFL, but in college, it's not.
Yeah, because you only get the 15 yards for pass interference.
Right.
which I kind of wish they would go back to in the NFL. I remember when it was just a 15-yard
I
penalty.
would I wouldn't hate that either, for sure.
But yeah, no, yeah, I think both the semifinal games were great games. They gave us
We needed
exactly
it. We
what we were
needed
looking
that.
for. Yeah, we did. Too many blowouts in the earlier rounds. It'll be interested to see how the committee does things going forward based on how bad the first couple of rounds of football really were.
I think that's how it's going to be. I think I mean because basketball is just such a one-off. There's so many more games,
Yeah,
right? And so you go take these kids and you put them in a random huge arena somewhere, and these football arenas, and they put a court in the middle, and you don't know the background, and you're going to get some upsets, right?
right.
There's so many games. You go take a juggernaut and put them in their home, sleeping in their own bed, and you bring some other school in there in December or January, you're going
Yeah.
to get waxed. That's just going to happen. It's college football. I mean, we're going to see that. I don't know how you get off that. You could say, yeah, put Alabama in there for
But
SMU.
see, Alabama wasn't, and I've been hearing that argument, and I'm not saying that some of these arguments about what the how the committee did it, like to me, Boise State should have never had a bye, right? Like,
Sure.
yes, they should have made the playoff. They earned the right to be in the playoff, but they shouldn't have had a bye. But all of these people that are arguing that Alabama should have been in there, I mean, Alabama was not good this year. They got waxed by Vanderbilt. They got waxed by Oklahoma. I mean, they only scored 3 points against a horrible Oklahoma team. Please tell me how they deserved, all these people, Alabama deserved to be in the play. No, they didn't. But there are things that should probably happen going forward to change the seating and who gets a bye. And, you know, I don't know that a conference champion should automatically get a bye. Case in point, Boise State, right? Like, I don't know. It'll be
Well,
interesting to see going
it's
forward
that
how some
think
of the
about
seeding works.
I think that they should because it's going to go. We can talk about the NFL. People are saying that the Bucks shouldn't be the four seed, right?
Right.
But and then everyone should redesign it because you get that one off year where the Vikings it seems like they get screwed, right? They're a three
Right.
loss team versus a seven loss team, and the seven loss team gets a home game, at home, and people want that change. But at the end of the day, win your division. Like that's what your number one goal when you start the year is win the division. Once we win the division, then we, win a division. Maybe we make it to the NFC Championship, the AFC Championship game. You know that you have these goals at the beginning of the year. So in
Right.
college, your goal at the beginning of the year has got to be first thing. I don't know. Maybe if you're, let's just think if you're Ohio State, Michigan. Maybe it's like beat Michigan.
Right. Yeah,
Maybe that.
If you're Ohio
Maybe
State, that's the only goal that you have.
right. Maybe that's what Ohio State starts saying. For other schools, it's win the conference. They start out win the conference, unless you're Ryan Day. But that's what your first goal is. And I think if you can win your conference, you win your division. It's just what it is. That's the rule. You win that, you're in, you get that home game. So I don't think that they should change that part. I mean, to make it more interesting, but who knows how it will work out in the future. There may be the better schools being the lower seeds traveling, right?
Yeah.
Because of the SEC beating up on each other, the Big Ten beating up. There may be the time that Penn State or the Texas is like Tennessee going to Ohio State. That's a great matchup on paper. We
Yeah.
may get more of those
Yeah.
than the SMU's traveling and whatnot. But maybe it'd be interesting to have, but you would never know who the bigger school was. Have the bigger school travel to the small school. But that, again, that's too hard. You can't do that. You can't change it up. So we'll see. We got the first year of it. We were very disappointed how it started because all the road teams got waxed. It seemed like very mismatched, but it
Yeah.
came together in the Final Four. The Final Four put a good product on the field, and I know this national championship is going to be a good one.
Me
Uh,
too. I don't know though that Notre Dame has enough firepower to keep up with Ohio State. They both have
I don't think there's any way Notre Dame wins the game at
no.
all. I don't see it.
I honestly think Ohio State covers the 8.5 points or whatever it is.
It's at
Um,
8 today. I thought I'm just moving them to 6
yeah,
in my ticket just to keep it under a touchdown.
yeah. I
But
just there's too much firepower over there for Ohio State. Will Howard's playing out of his mind, and really, I think that Michigan loss has fueled this team to new heights. And I think they're doing it for Ryan Day because they know how. The one thing I do know about Ohio State is that those players love Ryan Day. I've never heard a single player have anything bad to say that came out of Ohio State about Ryan Day. And so I think that they hear this narrative that's being talked about him. And so, as much as I like Notre Dame and I like Marcus Freeman, I think he's a phenomenal coach. But at the end of the day, I just don't think that they have enough firepower to keep up with. Their defense is going to be on the field a lot. They're going to get tired and worn down. That Jeremiah Smith, I know everybody talked about the kid from Alabama only being 17, but that Jeremiah Smith is an absolute phenom at wide receiver. Like,
he is. Texas handled him pretty well though.
yes. Well,
I mean,
we had a lot of triple coverage on him. They were showing pictures of the coverage, and he was bracketed by three people
it
at
was
almost all times of the game.
it was the other two kids, and I can't. One of them's like Mbeke,
Emeka Ibuka, and
Ibuka,
then I can't think of the other guy's name, but
like Holt or
the one
something.
kid dropped a touchdown pass. I mean, it would have probably started to be a blowout early, but he drops a wide open touchdown pass. So, but yeah, all our attention was on Jeremiah Smith.
Well, I tell you, Notre Dame's coach, boy, he about the end of that game, right? The way he was using his timeouts, because you want to kick that field goal with no
Yeah,
time on the clock, right? And he was trying to do that, and it just shows you how he's probably thought about this situation many a time. He's on his notes, he's talked about it with assistants, and then you actually get in the game and all the pressure's on, and you find yourself can't figure out when to call a timeout, when to call a run play. And like he about messed that up because he left. I can't remember the amount of time that he left Penn State, but he
yeah,
left on time. And
right.
he pretty much had to screw up to do that. Like it was
Yeah.
laid out for you to run the ball a couple times, get the first down,
Well, and I
and
think it was a mix of trying to figure out how to run the clock down, but also
how
get the
close to
ball in
get
the position that the kicker wants it in because they're a
and
bad kicking team.
and
That's what
how close
everybody
to get,
kept
right?
saying is Penn
Yeah.
State's playing this perfect. Make them kick because Notre Dame's not a good kicking team.
Right.
And
But he didn't, he was calling timeouts too early,
yeah,
right? Because the point was you have time. Maybe you want to try to get an additional 8 yards. Maybe you can get an additional 10. And they ended up getting that third down where they threw it to the guy and they got like 2 extra yards, which put them in field goal range. And at that point, you've got to run that clock down. And he was immediately like time out. I'm like, what are you
right.
doing?
Yeah,
Why are you doing this? Like, how much closer do you need to get? This needs to be a kick that you either make or miss, and you go to overtime.
yeah,
You cannot leave a second on the clock for Penn
right.
State. And because I noticed that because Franklin's the one that gets all the heat, right?
Yeah.
About can't coach a big game. And that just shows you how much strain and stress is on at the end of the game like that. I mean, you just have so many decisions to make.
Yeah, and nothing prepares you. You were talking about how he's probably made all of these notes and he's got all of this game time situation stuff in his head. But when you're in that moment, man, and everything is on the line, it's either win this game and go to the national championship or lose it and my season is over. I feel like that stuff just goes right out the window and you start kind of going off of instinct. And if you've never been in it, so this is Notre
Right.
Dame's first time in the playoff, right? First time in the semifinals. And so you've never been in that situation, so instinct kind of goes out the window because you don't have any. You've not been in it, and he's going to go and look at that, and the next time he's in that situation, he's going to be a little bit calmer because he made it through that, and he's going to be able to think. But the first time being in that situation, one of the youngest head coaches in college football, it
Yeah, that's a good
kudos to
point.
him that he was able to get through it and he
When you
didn't mess it up.
advance, yeah, that's a good point. When you advance, you get to learn from your mistake and get more confidence, and
Yeah.
your decisions will be better. Whereas Franklin loses, and he gets more nervous because he says, I've gotta get better, right?
Yeah.
So that's a very good point that he'll learn from that, and his confidence went up and still has a learning point, something to learn from. Where Franklin, it's just more pressure. It's just
Yeah.
the next time the big game's there, the same questions, the same interviews,
Yeah.
the same narrative. So, um,
Yeah. And the narrative never changes until you change it. So
absolutely.
he's got to live with this for, another season at least. And we'll see what they're gonna do. I know Drew Aller said he's coming back. So it'll be interesting to see what Penn State can do. They really need some more talent, though, right? They don't have. I mean, Drew Aller's top target all season long was the tight end who's going to the pros. They've never really had great wide receiver talent. It's always been running backs, defense, and they finally have. And Drew Aller's a good quarterback. He's got some refining to do. There's some things that he needs to work on. I think that's why he's coming back and not going pro. But at the end of the day, you got to get him some weapons outside. He's got to have some people that he can really truly rely on to throw the ball down the field to, and be able to open the offense up.
Well,
So
I wish somehow, unfortunately, Abdul Carter had way too good of a game, but to fall to us at 17. But boy, would I love another
you
11.
guys are drafting Ashton Genty.
No, we're not. We are not at drafting. No, we're not. I think everyone thinks that because of our running back situation, but we are not drafting Ashton Genty. We are not. We're
So
getting. We better go.
speaking,
We better go offensive line or um a defensive run stopper somehow, either
yeah,
a
y'all
defensive
definitely need
lineman or a
somebody to
linebacker.
stop the run. You guys, and we
Absolutely.
do too. I'm nervous about this game against Detroit. I think so. I know the line's 9.5, and I don't think that we just get absolutely blown out.
Oh, I got you guys +9. I
Yeah.
think that's the pick.
Um, because Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin are going to score points, right? Um, but we're 29th in rushing defense. David Montgomery's coming back. We've not been great against the pass. I mean, Marshawn Lattimore is, I don't know if the hammy's still bothering him or what, but Mike Evans absolutely murdered him. They showed a stat during the game that said against Marshawn Lattimore and all the games that they've played against each other, Mike Evans averages 3 catches for 44 yards and zero
I saw
touchdowns.
that stat. Yeah, which is crazy, right?
Right. And Marshawn Lattimore couldn't do anything with Mike Evans last Sunday. So
Y'all still won the game somehow. It's
man,
like they were clicking.
but
You just
I don't know what we have going on, what kind of magic spells somebody's put over us, but I would love to keep riding this wave. So I mean,
well,
obviously
what
I'm rooting for us. I don't know that we win the game, but I do think we keep it close. I
you
think it's
guys going on 13, 15 play drives, just converting Jay Daniels just converting third down after third down after third. I mean, it just was watching that game. It was a buddy of mine that's a Bucks fan was like, dude, we got to get them off the field. We can't stop them. And he's the one that talked to me about if we should not have kicked that field goal at the end because we were
yeah.
not going to stop them. We've proven all game long we can't get the Commanders off the field. We can't. Jane Daniels is going to keep converting third downs, and
But
and
and so that's the difference in the coaching, right? Todd Bowles is extremely conservative, refuses to go for it on fourth down unless it's the end of the game and you have to, right? In that instance, you don't have to because a field goal ties it. I don't need a touchdown to win it or any of
yeah,
that, right? Whereas Dan Quinn speaking, so this is going to be the fourth down game coming
hell
up.
yeah, it is.
I mean, they might as well healthy scratch all field goal kickers and all punters from the game and just bring in extra. We need extra run stoppers.
I
You're
wish
not,
they would. Like, you can't use the kicker till the fourth quarter, and
yeah,
no punts allowed.
right. But it just. I mean, all season we've been going for it on fourth down. In a couple of those situations, like we were down 3-0 at the beginning of the game, and we went for it on fourth down in the red zone, and we failed to get it. And I was like, man, we're gonna regret not going for that field goal right then. And we didn't. Dan Quinn's been doing an amazing job coaching. Um, Our defense hasn't been great. It hasn't been a world-beating defense or anything like that, but they have stepped up and shut down what they needed to shut down in the moments that they needed it to. And it usually comes on the heels of Jaden Daniels getting them back in the game. Like somewhere along the way, we'll fall behind, and Jaden Daniels does something special that he's been doing all year to get us back in the game, and the defense responds to that. So we've been playing a lot of complementary football. And so I expect that to continue and it to at least be a good game. I obviously want us to win and hope we win. I don't have the expectation that we will. Detroit is a really great team, really well coached. And I
And I
think they
think
have a
that,
huge chip on their shoulder.
and they've
I
got
wouldn't be
depth.
surprised if we win based on how our season's going, though.
I think Detroit's got destiny on its side. I mean,
I
I
do
just
too.
because you got too many. Everybody's rooting for Detroit. If you're unless you're that city, unless you're Washington,
Right.
you're rooting for Detroit, man. We've all
Most,
grown. I grew up watching the Detroit games on Thanksgiving and seeing them
just
on
watching
Chris
them get
Berman
murdered.
and seeing Chris Berman talk about them on Sundays and having fans with bags on their heads. And you're
Right.
like, being like as a kid, man, what's going on in Detroit? And then you get older and you learn, oh, they suck, you
Yeah.
know. And like, but they keep every year they just keep coming, like they've got a team, and you hear about a Barry Sanders, like, oh, that dude's good, but God, they suck. And then
Yeah.
they got later years with Kitna and um, Orlovsky, and then
Right.
you get, then they get Stafford and they got Megatron, and you're like, oh, okay, these guys,
And they
they're
just,
talented, but they suck.
yeah.
You know,
It's always been bad ownership, bad GMs, bad coaching, and and they've never stuck with a coach, right? And it's funny that, they're showing interviews here lately. I've been seeing them on Facebook and stuff about the lady that owns the Lions in Dan Campbell's first couple of seasons. The first season they were really bad. And then the second season they started off really slow and she's like, we're just going to stick with the process. We're going to trust the process. He's not in danger of losing his job. Then they rip off like six in a row at the end of that season to finish with like 7-9 or something like that. And it looked like maybe they were starting to put things together. And it just took them a couple of years. And now, man, nobody wants to face them. Both the offensive and defensive coordinators are probably going to have head coaching jobs at the end of the season. And I mean, I love to see it. I still hope they lose. Um, they were my preseason pick to go to the Super Bowl, and that's because I thought we had no shot, right? I didn't think we were going to be a playoff team. I didn't think, but at this point in time, I'm ready to throw my preseason Super Bowl pick right out the window. My Commanders need to go into Detroit and represent. So
it's gonna be a good one. I'm taking you guys +9. I haven't put a ticket in yet, but I did look this morning, and you guys are +9,
yeah,
which I like. I like we'll get to it.
I took us +9.5 yesterday. I took the Eagles -6. I took the
Dang,
Chiefs -8.5 as well. Um,
Houston.
I can't get over that Christmas Day game against with Houston. I know the Chiefs don't generally blow people out, but it's the playoffs. Houston's super banged up. Joe Mixon's nursing an ankle injury. They're missing half their wide receiving core. All they have to do is stop Nico Collins. And I just, it's playoff football in Kansas City. It feels like, not like Buffalo to win tonight. Um, I don't know. I know there was the 38-10 or 31-10 or whatever game in week 4, but Josh Allen didn't have Amari Cooper. Half their defense was hurt. Matt Milano's back. They've got a lot of pieces that they didn't have in that first meeting. And I really think Josh Allen's on one this year. Like this has been his best year as a pro. He's only thrown 4 or 5 interceptions all season long, which is the lowest of his career. He's playing more confident and comfortable, like really since Stephon Diggs left, right? And so I think without the pressure of having to get the ball to Stephon and just being able to play free and fast, if their defense can figure out a way to slow down the run game, which is really the only thing they have to focus on because Zay Flowers is doubtful for the game. So while you have Mark Andrews and likely over there that can catch balls, their passing game without Zay Flowers is going to be almost non-existent. So if you can shut down the running game or at least contain it a little bit, I think Buffalo wins that game.
Yeah, that game, that Buffalo game back in week 4, there was only 4 catches made by receivers and tight ends in that game. I mean, that was a Derrick Henry 200 something yards rushing. Lamar did his thing. It was
Yeah,
a weird game. It was a game they couldn't stop Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry had 2 touchdowns. Lamar did his thing. Justice Hill doing his thing. 4 catches. That's just awkward. That's a weird game. That's a weird stat line.
right.
Um,
And
so
you don't get two of those in a season, right?
Yeah. Well, come on. Derrick Henry's not going to go in and rush for 200 yards in Buffalo.
Right.
It's not going to be that kind of game. They're not, you don't, in week 4, you let that happen because you got holes in your defense and it just works out different. This is going to be an at-home game where if he comes bust you for a 40-yard run, then bust you for a 20-yard run. All right, here comes the guys in the box. We're shutting
Yeah.
that shit down.
Right.
Lamar, you know what I mean? It just doesn't happen like that. So, um, but I'm so excited for this game. I mean, I'm excited to watch an NFL game with two quarterbacks that I really like. Lamar is one of my favorite quarterbacks. He led me to fantasy championship. I didn't win the championship, but I won the overall points.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge Lamar fan. Always am. He's always on one of my fantasy teams. I want to see that guy bust through and get a championship. He's him in Detroit, Baltimore, Detroit are my Super Bowl picks. I really like the chances of that. I think it would be a great Super Bowl. But
Yeah.
the fact that they're favored, in Buffalo, they're the lower seed. Buffalo being the higher seed.
And I think
Just
they're really just favored because of the week 4 matchup, right? Because it's only a
yeah,
1 point favorite. It's really truly a pick 'em, you know.
sure, absolutely.
But I think that 1 point really just comes from that buff or that game in Baltimore.
But honestly, it's with Zay Flowers being questionable, it should be the other way, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, and he's not just questionable, he's doubtful. He has not
Uh,
practiced all week. He's a true game time decision. I really
he's
don't
not going
think
to
that
play.
he's going to be able to go because if you think about the weather that it's going to be in Buffalo, we're talking about possible 9 degrees with the wind chill, and you have a knee injury against a hard frozen surface because I don't believe that Buffalo has any heaters under their field like a lot of teams do, and I think they do that on purpose. Like they they love that shit, right? They love when it's
Oh
frozen
yeah,
like that.
they
And
love it. The fans will be there. Will not be an empty seat.
no,
They it's
the Bills Mafia is real. Those dudes are wild and out of control. Half of them won't be wearing shirts, and they're not going to, they don't get frostbitten like the Kansas City fans did. They're
right.
there for it. And so I don't believe that you put a player like that, a young player with a bright future like Zay Flowers, at risk for a playoff game when the weather's inclement like that, right? That if you have a knee injury, inclement weather like that, you know, it's he could really do some damage to it. So I don't see him playing. And so other people are going to have to step up for Baltimore. And I just don't know. I feel like, and like I said, I'm obviously rooting for my Commanders, but Detroit was my preseason Super Bowl pick, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see like a Detroit Buffalo Super Bowl. I think that would be, to me, that would be the most interesting Super Bowl we've had in years. Two teams that have never won it, one team that's never been to it. Um,
Oh yeah,
minus the
I'm about
early
that game.
'90s team,
If that's
minus
the
the
matchup, yes, I'm all about that. That's a hell of a matchup
yeah,
for sure.
and minus the early '90s Buffalo teams, right, with the Jim Kellys and the Thurman Thomases and all of those guys, right?
Andre Reed,
Buffalo's really been a horrible franchise too. I mean, they had the O.J. Simpson years, but even then it was hit and miss on whether or not they made the playoffs. Then you went through the stretch of bringing in Drew Bledsoe and Ryan Fitzpatrick and the plethora of quarterbacks they brought in until they got to Josh Allen and they've really just been a miserable franchise.
Yeah,
So to
I would
me,
love
to me, that would be the greatest Super Bowl matchup of all time is the Detroit Lions versus the
see
Buffalo Bills.
that's a tough one because who's America voting for there, rooting for,
Right,
right?
right.
Like that's another
The
because we
team
never
that went
seen
4 times in a row and lost 4 times in a row, or the
exactly.
team that's never been and their fans
Never
just
sniffed
wear
it.
garbage bags.
Yeah, never sniffed it. They never
Right.
sniffed the Super Bowl. Or do you root for the team that's actually been there and just gotten slaughtered and hasn't? That's a tough one.
Yeah, most definitely. So let's talk a little bit about some of these coaching openings. Obviously, your guys' coach, uh,
Made a good
I don't know if he
decision.
wanted to come back or chose not to come back, but either way, they were
I like
negotiating and couldn't get the
I
years
like
right.
McCarthy. Absolutely. I love McCarthy. I think he was a great coach. I would have liked for him to stay. Again, he's proven the players play for him. The 3 seasons of 12 wins in a row. Really like Mike McCarthy. I also like the fact that he got out, right? He saw, I mean, it's chaos there. Jerry Jones causes chaos. Everyone knows
Right.
it. I mean, it's not going anywhere. Um, so it'd be interesting to see where Mike McCarthy ends up. But Mike McCarthy's a good coach. Our What we're doing right now, in my opinion, is just getting some headlines. It just so happens to come out on the night of that football game. I guess it was the Monday night game with the Rams and the Vikings that we're talking to Dion. Like that just gets released, so they can talk about it for Monday Night Football. But we're not hiring Dion. But I mean, I talk like I know. I have no clue what Jerry Jones is going to do. I hope we don't hire Dion Sanders.
I think that's
I
who the next coach is.
I
I'll give you my reasons in a minute.
I think it's going to be. Maybe I'll throw a third one. I think two. Ben Johnson for Detroit is who we're going to go after, but so is everybody else. I think if our money matches everybody else, he'll come because who wouldn't want to coach the Dallas Cowboys for their first job? This first job. Not now, an experienced NFL coach is going to know, I can't work with that guy. He's going to be meddling, but if it's your first job and you're like, oh shit, the Dallas Cowboys, that just looks like, But John Gruden is going to, I think is going to be our next coach. He has mentioned he's interested in getting back in coaching, and he is the kind of coach like Jimmy Johnson that will go in and be able to push back on Jimmy or Jerry and have that like I know what I'm doing. I also can't have, and they're going to butt heads. And it's going to be one of those things that's going to be must see TV because you're going to have John Gruden and Jerry Jones it'll be all hunky dory, rainbows and flowers at first and then some nitty gritty will get going. But
I
that's
don't
who I
think
hope
I don't think John Gruden can coach in the NFL anymore.
he can. He's got there's a appeal or something. I've read something. He can. He's actually that's about to be cleared up. The whole Washington thing, it's about to be cleared up.
The Washington. Are you talking about Jay Gruden or John Gruden? Because John Gruden was the coach of the Raiders that had,
John Gruden, but
he had all the emails with the
with the
racist
owner of
comments and
Washington.
stuff.
Yeah,
Oh
with the
yeah, yeah,
owner
yeah,
of
yeah.
Washington. Yeah. Sorry,
So
throwing you guys in there because your coach was an op, or your owner was an op.
yeah. Um. So I think Ben Johnson's going to Oakland or Las Vegas. I'm sorry, I keep calling him Oakland. I think he's going to take the Raiders job. Um. I think that he wants something similar to what Dan Campbell's done, which is take a storied franchise from the bottom of the barrel back to relevance again. I think Tom Brady's going to be very influential in that coaching hire, and I think it's going to be Ben Johnson. I think that Mike McCarthy probably ends up in Chicago. He's used to the NFC North. Uh, he's got a great track record of developing quarterbacks. I mean, he went from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. Dak's best seasons came under Mike McCarthy, so it would make sense to bring Mike McCarthy to
He
coach
coached Joe
Caleb Williams.
Montana. I just learned.
Yeah, yeah, he was a quarterbacks coach in San. That's where he got his start.
Yeah,
You know, so he's got a great track record of quarterback coaching, right? And you've got Caleb Williams, who you invested everything in, and and need results, right? And they've got all the plethora of weapons for him. And so I think bringing Mike McCarthy into Chicago makes a lot of sense. He's familiar with those teams that he's going to be coaching against. Um, and and I think you guys are going to hire Dion. And I think what you were saying about John Gruden being able to push back against against Jerry, Dion brings that same thing. Jerry Jones has a lot of respect for Deion Sanders for who he was as a player, who he is as a man, and I actually think Dion would have a bigger voice than any other coach coming in there with Jerry. Um, but Jerry likes headlines for one, and what bigger headline would there be than Coach Prime coming to coach the Dallas Cowboys? Even if they're horrible, they will be more talked about than they already are for that. And that's what Jerry loves. Jerry talks about wanting to win, and he probably does. But what he wants more than anything is for the Cowboys to continuously be talked about.
Well,
And
that's
what
the
better way to
sickness
do that?
that's where he's in his sickness that he can't get out of. Is he
Right.
wants to win so bad. He want no doubt in my mind. Jerry Jones is a competitive guy who loves the Dallas Cowboys and wants to win so bad. And that's why he gets involved so much. And that's what he needs to back out of. He's got to let go of the wheel and he's got
Yeah.
to turn it over to people that are
Jesus, take the
professional.
wheel.
And he's got to let a general manager and people that evaluate talent and handle players and personnel and then just sit back and be the owner fan and enjoy the fandom of it. And he can't, unfortunately, he's driving himself to the grave by wanting it so bad and thinking he's got to make all the decisions and evaluate talent and hire this coach and do all. And that's his problem is he
Well,
wants
and
it so
here's
bad.
and that's the other reason why they're going to hire Deion Sanders is because Deion Sanders has already made a statement that said he would take the Cowboys job, that he's open to coaching Dak. It wouldn't have to be a you have to bring my son in thing like everybody keeps saying that they would have to do. And anybody that's really truly looking, and I think Ben Johnson's shown it, and a lot of these other coordinators are showing it too, is that they're just not going to take any job as their first job anymore. These coordinators are starting to realize that my first job could be my last job, so I have to be careful. So teams like the Jets and, the Panthers didn't fire their coach, but teams like the Jets and the Panthers and the Titans and all of these teams that continuously cycle through coaches, or teams like the Cowboys, right? Where I have these ownership groups or owners that are constantly meddling in my business as a coach. It's not a good place for me to go. This may be my only shot. You look at a coach like Aaron Glenn, who's catching a lot of steam to be a head coach somewhere because of the great job that he's done with that Detroit Lions defense that seems to keep playing up to par no matter who goes down, right? No matter what player gets injured, we're just going to go sign somebody off of somebody's practice squad, plug him in, and we're going to go. So he's getting, but a lot of these guys are realizing that. I mean, Ben Johnson's been through 3 cycles where he should have been a head coach, and he's chosen not to take the job because he wasn't sure it was going to be the right fit or he was going to have the opportunity to succeed. Which is why I think he takes the Raiders job, because Tom Brady seems to be getting really involved, and I think Tom Brady's somebody that these candidates can get behind and feel like they can trust him to keep Mark
So
Davis in
who do you
check.
think, who do you see what are the Raiders drafting at 2,
No, I
3?
think they're way further down than that. Actually, I think they're like 5 or 6.
No, ain't no way.
Look it up, because I know the Titans have
So
the
who do
number
you think
one
they're
pick.
taking? What quarterback you think they're getting?
I don't know at
Well,
this
I don't know
point
that
because
I don't know that I'm
the
interested in that
Titans are
job looking
picking
at
first
quarterback.
overall, and the Giants are picking second overall. I know that for sure. So I'm pretty sure that Cam Ward and so here's what I really think is I think that the Minnesota Vikings are going to stay put with JJ McCarthy and let him come in. I think the last 2 weeks really showed that while Sam Darnold had a great year, he's not quite there. But you bring in Ben Johnson in Las Vegas as your head coach. Sign Sam Darnold in free agency because you're not picking high enough to get one of the what I believe is there's only two first round draft pick quarterbacks out there. Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders are the only two. They're going to be gone. Tennessee's taking one, and the Giants are going to take the other. And
So you're
so,
right. There's six.
yeah.
I'll be darned.
So I think you bring in Ben Johnson, who completely revived Jared Goff's career, right? Has Jared Goff looking like an MVP. Pair him with Sam Darnold, at least as a stopgap, if nothing else, right? You don't have to pay him $55, $60 million a year like you would have if he would have ran off and won the Super Bowl or made it to
Definitely
the
don't
NFC
now.
Championship game, right? So you could get by with paying him $35 million a year, you know, as a stopgap, get him on a good 2 or 3 year contract because you got to figure out when you're going to be able to draft a quarterback. Maybe you get one in the second or third round that you sit behind and develop, or you bring Ben Johnson in and make a trade with Detroit and get Hendon Hooker. Like, I know we haven't seen a lot of him in the NFL, but until he hurt his knee in Tennessee, he was the Heisman front runner. And I think he's really good. I watched him in Tennessee and I watched him at Virginia Tech and I watched the growth of him over those years in college. And I really think that he's somebody that's young and you could really build around. They've,
Who's he playing for? Who's Hooker playing for?
Hooker, he's the backup in Detroit.
Oh, okay. I'll tell you
Yeah.
who surprised me was Milton. I think the kid that used to play at
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee. You mentioned Tennessee, and it made me think he got to play the last game at New England or next to last game with the Patriots.
Right.
And he came in, I was like, this kid's talented. He
He
looked, I
is.
mean,
He was talented when he was at Michigan and he was talented at Tennessee, but you know, you could rattle him, right? And that was the big knock. That's why he fell so much in the draft, is because it was really easy to rattle him. Hendon Hooker never got rattled, and I really think that so you could even do that, right? You could bring Ben Johnson in, maybe
sure,
make
because he knows
make
your
a
terminology. You've seen him.
right.
You know, you've worked with him. Yeah.
Yeah, and then now at 6, I can draft him a weapon, right? Because I've already got a great tight end. I've got Brock Bowers, right? A la Sam Laporta, right? So I've got the tight end that fits with Ben Johnson's system. Now I need to get a couple of good wide receivers. I got some money in free agency. We can work with some things. It's not like their defense is bad. If he hires a good staff, they've got some talent on defense. It's a desirable job if you have somebody to keep Mark Davis in check, because Mark Davis is another guy like a Jerry Jones that who learned from his dad, Al Davis, that I have to be right in the middle of everything. I have to be running this, and Tom Brady's kind of there to put that in check. Like, this is how ownership should be. This is how the Crafts did it, right? Speaking of the Crafts in New England, I think they got the absolute rock star coach for their organization in Mike Vrabel. Um, and if I'm being honest with you, I think it's who they wanted to hire last year when they hired Gerard Mayo, but they had to promote Gerard Mayo because they had made him the head coach in waiting. And so when they fired Bill, but I don't think Gerard Mayo, unless they made the playoffs and looked unstoppable, I don't think Gerard Mayo was keeping his job this year. I think that Mike Vrabel was the only coach that New England wanted, and I love Raves as a head coach. I think he did a phenomenal job in Tennessee. He never really had a franchise quarterback. He's got the best quarterback he's ever had in his coaching career in Drake May. If you look, he had Marcus Mariota and Ryan Tannehill during his tenure there, and they have $120 million in cap space. They've got Christian Gonzalez as his lockdown corner on defense. You know, I think it's going to be a quick turnaround for New England to get right back
Yeah,
to their winning ways.
Drake May came on just like you would hope a rookie would. Him and Bo Nix showed up just they were the type of rookie that progressed all year.
Yeah,
But Drake May didn't get to start early. He got put in late, and so he had less film or less time. But yeah, he looked good. I think he's going to be a good, solid quarterback. you got like the just like you said about the Raiders, they've got to go get weapons.
Yeah.
At some point, you've got to go concentrate on I need some weapons. I got to get some guys on the outside that can make plays and scare defenses.
And
Uh,
If I'm Mike Vrabel, um, I'm on the phone with Josh McDaniels right now, trying to get him to come be the offensive coordinator. Right? He's not going to get any head coaching buzz. He's been out of football for
what's he doing? He's out of football, so he's
yeah.
not coaching.
He hasn't coached anybody. I haven't heard of him being a consultant. He's not
Yeah, me
an
neither.
OC anywhere. Um, but that dude was the best offensive coordinator that New England ever had. I know they had the Charlie Weiss, and I know they had what's the Boston College head coach? Oh man, I can't think of his name.
I know
He
you're
was the
coming.
head coach in Houston for a little while. Bill O'Brien. They had him and he was good, but Josh McDaniels, no matter what great receiver they had or what bum receiver they had, they always Tom Brady always was at the top of the league in passing and all of that, no matter who they threw out. I mean, they were, catching dudes off the side of the street to come play wide receiver for him, and it looked great. So if I'm Mike Vrabels, I'm on the phone with Josh McDaniels right now saying, hey, let's run this back. Come on back to New England, come back home, help me with this rookie quarterback. We're gonna, we can collaborate together. I need some defensive pieces. I know you need some offensive pieces. We got plenty of money. We got the number, I think they're number 3 or 4 draft pick. Should you go get Travis Hunter and cover 2 positions? you know. So it'll be interesting. I think it's a quick turnaround though. They're based on salary cap situation, draft position, who you have coaching, and who he hires as his staff. But my first call would be Josh McDaniels as my offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I heard that. I think everybody's kind of thinking that,
Yeah.
wanting to get the McDaniels back in and Vrabel. I mean, I haven't heard one person say Vrabel wasn't a good hire. So it's like, damn, this guy's the rock star at the coaching position.
Right.
And you think the Tennessee Titans. I'm gonna just throw this out there. 3 years ago, I think were the number one seed
Yeah.
in the
With
AFC.
Ryan Tannehill as their quarterback.
Yeah. So yeah, he can
Made it
galvanize
to
a
the
lot.
AFC championship game that year.
Yeah. So. Um,
And what happens is the very next year they make the playoffs and lose them. I think it was the first or second round. And then their GM trades away AJ Brown.
Stupid.
Right. After you paid Ryan Tannehill a bunch of money, you
But think
trade
about
away
it.
the only wide receiver you have.
You let AJ Brown go, then you trade Derrick Henry, or you let Derrick Henry go.
Right.
I don't
And then
know. That
Braves gets fired, and they're like, "It's your fault."
what are you
No,
doing?
right.
You're talking about two like studs, like not just specimen athletes. Like
Talking
they don't
about pretty
make them
much
like
two
that.
first ballot Hall of Famers.
They don't make athletes like that. Like you get
Right.
those guys in the building and you keep those pieces.
Right.
You know,
Forever.
those aren't pawns.
Yeah.
Those are guys you'd be like,
You let us know when you're ready to go. We'll set up your retirement party. Like
Absolutely, man. That's the guys that are in the locker room, and you ask who wants to be the lockers next to you. Like
yeah.
those,
Yeah,
I don't
they
care.
kind of run the show.
Absolutely, you don't get
Yeah.
those. Let those guys get out of the building.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think the coaching hires are going to be interesting to see how they go moving forward. You've got the Jets jobs open. I think that's probably the worst job opening out there because you have no idea what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers. You've got a team that, while they have a lot of talent on paper and should be great, for whatever reason, cannot seem to put anything together. I know Rex Ryan's begging to have that job back. Um,
That'd be a mess. I don't think he's a good hire.
I don't either. He's been out of the game for too long.
Maybe he thinks he's hungry to coach, but you get into the grind of coaching, and you get into
Yeah,
week 9, and I don't see Rex Ryan being,
right. You've been
especially
sitting
when
on TV on Sunday morning countdown for
you're
what 10 or 12 years now. Like
You're 4-5 at best going in. Maybe you're 5-4. How dedicated are you week 9?
yeah,
Going into week 10.
right.
And I don't think Roger. And I just honestly I don't want to watch Rogers play quarterback anymore.
No, me either. I
I,
want him to retire.
I
Like,
hate seeing a guy like that. Like I don't know where he's gonna go. I don't know. They've thrown stuff around about other teams, and I'm like, why would anybody want to bring in Aaron Rodgers?
right.
Right?
With
Like
what we've seen.
you've seen it. You've seen Kirk Cousins. You just saw what Aaron put on the field, and now that was a waste of a season. And how you're going to bring him in, and maybe you galvanize the fan base, and everybody gets excited. But it's like that's all it is. It's about excitement and ticket sales early in the season, and
Yeah.
then crash and burn.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, and we don't see it as much anymore. It used to be you saw the guys that hung on to the bitter end. I mean, the Dan Marinos and guys like that were just getting pummeled at the end of their career, and you're like, please just retire. I don't want to see you like this. And we haven't seen that in a long time, right? A lot of these guys start to retire earlier because they realize that the game's passed them by. I mean, you had a little bit of that with Peyton Manning his last year. It just finally got to be too bad. But for the most part, these guys are retiring while they still got a little juice in the tank, and we can still appreciate their greatness. And Aaron Rodgers, you can't do that anymore. I mean, for a long time, he was the greatest thrower of the football that we had seen, and that time is past him. And I don't want to see him come back for another year because it is just looking bad. So, and with that, I think we've done it, man, and it's
Yeah,
been a
let's
great episode. It's
absolutely, man. Let's just finish up with these picks
yeah,
and and go watch some football, man. I got a big pickleball match got today. Got to get to at 10:30, so I'm excited about that.
nice.
All right, so I'm gonna give you my picks first. I got a five-teamer, which is throwing in the college football national championship in there. All right.
All right.
All right, Ohio State -6. Again, I know that spread is 8, but I'm going to buy 2 points. I'd feel a lot better watching that game knowing that Ohio State just has to win by a touchdown.
Okay.
Um, and then I'm going to go Houston +8.5. I think it's going to be a low scoring game. And I think just, you know, Kansas City might win at 2013, might win at 17-10. I just see it being very low scoring. But I'm going to take the points there. I'm also going to take the points Washington +9.
Okay.
Um, just like the points there, I think it's going to be. I think that game might be more of a shootout. If I was betting over would be 55.5. I think it's going to go over. And I think Washington might be able to surprise you. It's just going to be a good game. I like Washington +9. Philly -6. That's probably the one I feel the most confident about. Is
Yeah.
Philly -6. They're going to cover. I think. Great job by the Rams last week. They look good. They got a lot going home back home. But they're going into Philly. It'll be cold, and I just think Philly just wins that easily. Baltimore -1.5. That's the one where I'm going with my heart. I'm going for Lamar. I think I don't think I just want Lamar to perform well. I think it's going to be
Okay.
a great game. It's going to be a field goal game, 6 to 3 points. It's going to be a close game. But I
Yeah.
just literally going with my heart on this one, and Lamar Jackson, my fantasy guy. So that's Ohio State -6. Bought some points there, getting it under 7. Houston +8.5. Washington +9. Philly -6, and Baltimore -1.5 points.
Okay. So I'm with you on the Ohio State, but I'm going to go ahead and take them minus the what is it, 8.5. It keeps
It was 8
fluctuating
this
between
morning.
there. So I don't think Notre Dame has enough firepower to keep up with Ohio State. So I like them to cover. They're probably going to win by 10 or more, if you ask me. Um, I'm going to take Kansas City minus the 8.5. I just can't get that Houston Christmas game where they only scored 2 points on a safety out of my head, and
It
it's
was
Kansas.
ugly.
It's a home playoff game for Kansas City. They're coming off of a bye. I just I feel like that they're ready for this. They've kind of been meandering through the season to get to this point, and now it's time to rocket into the fourth dimension of we're going to three-peat. I like us plus. I have us plus 9.5. I guess you said that the line has since dropped to just 9. Um, but I Detroit's defense is beaten up and battered, and we score and we don't punt, and Jaden Daniels is special. Um, they've been talking about it all year that he's the best rookie quarterback that they've seen in years, and I just we may surprise the world today. We may actually surprise the world today. I'm with you on Philly -6. I think that's the safest pick of the whole weekend is Philly -6. They're doing special things with Saquon Barkley. Stafford's 1-8 in snow and rain games, and it's supposed to
Yeah,
be
Philly's
snowing.
been winning, and we really hadn't seen it click with them. We haven't seen
Right.
them put it all together yet.
No. And they're just beating people
Right.
every time you turn around. And then Jared Verse with the I absolutely hate Philly fans tweet this week. I
I didn't
just
see
think
that.
that, yeah. So, the rookie running his
They're easy to
mouth to
hate,
the
though.
media.
They're easy to hate. If you've seen any
They are
video,
they are easy to hate. But to say something like that before you show up to Philly, probably gonna
yeah,
turn out
you say
bad for
that.
you.
You said that, and you're going to Philly.
Right.
Very
So
smart young fella.
and then I like Buffalo plus the 1.5. They're at home. I know Baltimore plays in cold weather, but they don't play in Buffalo cold. Um, Lamar has openly admitted that during playoff games he gets tight, and there is no bigger game than the one that he's going to play today. Um, Only because it's going up against another guy that has the same narrative. And I think Josh is getting to play a little bit freer this year without the Stephon Diggs screaming for the ball. We have seen the best version of Josh Allen this season than we've ever seen, and I feel like that he just feels confident, cool, and relaxed right now. And I think that they take it mostly because they're at home, and it's just a different kind of cold up there for Buffalo. So I've got Ohio State -8.5. I've got Kansas City -8.5. I've got Washington +9.5, Philadelphia -6, and Buffalo +1.5.
Nice, nice.
And so with that,
Good
guys, we
football
would
games. Good football
yes,
games. Great, and
it's
that's
going to be a
great.
great
Yeah,
3 days of football, man. We ask that you like, subscribe, share us with your friends and family. We appreciate you guys tuning in that do tune in. And with that, the Star Command is out.